from wherever in the world you are joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. This is Auckland Power BI and Analytics user group, but these days, like, we run online, so pretty much it's not Auckland, it's everywhere. But the time that it runs is appealing to Auckland users, of course, and some others. For Rui, it is like very early morning, like 6 a.m. If you haven't joined our user group, it's a meetup page. You just search for Auckland Power BI and Analytics user group. We are almost 3,000 members, which is good. And we normally run meetups like once a month, free sessions, and great speakers like Rui here and some other speakers we had in the past. The next session would be February, like late February. Another thing I want to mention just before Rui starts the session is that the Power BI Summit is coming, the second Power BI Summit conference we are running. Last year we had 3,700 people attending from over 80 countries. This year is going to be bigger. This year we have already the agenda published. Go and check it out from the Summit website. There's a section from sessions. You can see the agenda. It's across 8 rooms in parallel in 5 different days. So it's a full week conference. We have 2 repeated time slots of sessions, and it's like a lot of content, a lot of great speakers. I definitely encourage everyone to go and check it out. Price-wise, this is perhaps just less than $1 per session if you if you want to consider it. So it's pretty much nothing, and tickets are selling really fast. So check it out. I'll share the link in the chat window. So feel free to have any to let me know if you have any questions. Now I'm handing it over to Rui just before Rui starts. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to write it in a chat window. If it is very much related to the topic Rui is talking about, so I'll let him know. Otherwise, we'll keep it to the end. At the end, you can even turn on your microphone and start asking your question. But in the middle of the presentation, keep your microphone mute. I'll try to keep everyone's mute. If not, please help me as well with muting yourself. That's pretty much me. Rui, up to you. Just one thing before that, David, did I miss anything, or that's pretty much everything? No, you are mute. David, you are muted.
That's the phrase. Maybe okay. He's having some technical issues. So
probably having some technical issues. So
can I move forward?
Up to you. Yep, you go ahead, Rui. Okay. Start sharing your screen, and thank you.
Very well.
Thanks to you for waking up this early, all the way from Spain.
Not Spain, Portugal.
Oh, Portugal. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You cannot mistake a Portuguese with a Spanish.
Definitely not.
That's bad. That's bad.
I actually have.
I will just
Pedro or Facebook might know him.
Yeah. So it's fine. It's really my pleasure, and always a pleasure to be with you and participating on a user group. Yes, it's a little bit early, but that's also I can also leave the work early and do some stuff with my family. Okay, so a little bit about myself. My name is Rui Romano. I'm from Porto, Portugal. I'm a program manager in the Power BI product group, specifically in the Power BI CAT team. For those who don't know what is a Power BI CAT team, it's a specialized Power BI team inside the product group that works with the largest customers and the largest implementations all over the world. We learn from them, we learn from their problems, we curate those problems and take it back to the product group, and then help these customers solve their problems. But ultimately, it's to scale. So it's always to take these solutions and the things that we learn and share it with everyone through the communities, through the user groups, and that's why you see a lot of bloggers, YouTube channels from people from the CAT team. I'm a Microsoft data guy, 15 years working in this stack. Love Power BI, love data in general, and it's always a pleasure to participate in these kinds of events. You can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. These are my contacts. Everything that I will show is already, and I should have a link in here. It's already on my GitHub. So the slides, you can go to my GitHub. This is the URL. You can download the slides. And in the slides, actually, I will update the slides today with the last version. It should be from the previous session, because I've done this session a lot of times, but I always add and remove stuff. And in the slides, if I'm showing up any script or any demo, there will be a link to the GitHub script or demo that you can download and play for yourself. So the session is called Power BI Development on Steroids, and the idea is, or the main goal, or my main goal, is to give you an overview of some tools and some development techniques that can boost your development experience. Okay, it will be, and my style of session is it's normally a little bit fast-paced. Always focus on the possibilities, not the details. You can learn and you can watch this session as a recording later, and you can learn from yourself. One more time, everything that I'm about to show you, it's published. Okay, you can download and you can play by yourself. Okay, now let's start with the tools. And I'm pretty sure that if you are a seasoned Power BI developer, you already know these tools. I will give you my personal take on them. I won't show everything. It's not a session to show the tools. For that, you have many other recordings. I'm sure that Reza already have had the creators of these tools on his meetups or on his channel. But I will give you my personal take on each one of them, because, in my opinion, to be a good Power BI developer, to be efficient as a Power BI developer, you need to know them. Okay? That's why I'm going to show them. Okay, first one is DAX Studio, and DAX Studio is a tool that the main use cases are the query builder. So it's a way for you to write DAX, and it has IntelliSense. You can even drag and drop measures and fields, and it will create the DAX for you. It's a great tool just to format the DAX. Is for me the best tool for DAX performance and tuning, and I will do a demo for it. One of my favorite use cases, that I use it all the time in the CAT team, is the most easy way for you to quickly inspect your model and see the biggest columns and see the biggest tables and understand and ask questions like, is this column really needed? And that's a very, very important question. So if you are analyzing a data set created by someone else, because sometimes we just get an answer, I don't think so. I just added that column because I might need it. And that's a big, don't do it. Okay. Don't add columns just because you might need that column later. And just by asking those questions and see, we sometimes optimize the model by 50%, believe me. Okay. And it's a really quick way for you to analyze it. And this one is close to my heart, just to export data, because I actually contributed to this feature. It can be very useful just to export all the data from a Power BI data set to a folder as CSVs, or export it to a SQL Server database. It will create the SQL tables for you. It can be useful for some POC scenarios. Okay, let me just do a quick demo of this. Okay, the idea is you install Tabular Editor. And when you install Tabular Editor, it will show up here in a ribbon, the external tools, and it will show this icon over here. And what you can do is you can just click on DAX Studio, and this will open up DAX Studio for you, connected to the data set. I don't know. Is there any question, Reza, or just someone that?
Sorry, it is someone's microphone not muted. I'm trying to find what it is.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, you go on. I'll mute that.
So when you open DAX Studio, this will open this black canvas over here. And if you know DAX, you can just come here and write some queries. For example, evaluate employee. You can see that you have IntelliSense. You can run it. You run the query. It will show the results. You can output the results of a query to an Excel file. This is also useful, or a CSV file. For example, export a large amount of data without the limit of the actual export in Power BI Desktop. One thing that I really like, and this is something that sometimes get missed, especially for newcomers, is this query builder. So when you are not comfortable in writing your own DAX, you can click on here, query builder, and this will show up like a wizard, and you can just drag. For example, I want to know the sales amount, for example, sales amount and the sales amount last year. I want to know this by employee, and I want to know this by year, and I want to only see for the year of 2014 will get me something. And so it's just a drag and drop experience, a query builder. You can run it. This will get you the results. And the thing is, you can also click on here on edit query, and this will show the query for you. So this can be very useful to also learn a little bit about DAX. You know, DAX has a query, not DAX as a measure. So the best ways for you to write some DAX to get some results from a data set. And you will see, I will have another demo later how this can be useful. For example, when you want to query a data set from a REST API, for example. So query builder. My favorite one is this one. So the view metrics. So I'm connected to the model. Let's imagine a very typical situation where someone from your team or the company, hey, I have this model, it's huge, it's consuming, I'm getting out of memory errors in my premium capacity, it's not refreshing, it's a 1 GB file, can you help me? The first thing you should do is open DAX Studio, click here on view metrics, and this will give you a profiler of your Power BI dataset. And just like that, you get an estimate from the size in terms of memory of the data set, because the PBIX size is not the memory size. So this is an estimate. It's not like 100% accurate, but it should be like 90% accurate. And what you also get, because Power BI and Power BI datasets are column store databases. The first thing you should do is go to the columns tab, and look for the biggest columns, and then ask some questions like, okay, is this column really needed? The CT key? Yeah, it might be needed for a relationship. Okay, it should be there. If it's not needed, if you have, like, let's say a column that is the surrogate key on the sales table, you should just ask the developer, do you really need that table? Do you really need that column? If you don't need that column, just drop it. Okay, delete it. And that, for example, let's imagine that this city key column wasn't needed. In that case, we are talking about an optimization of around 30% of the database. This is huge. Now imagine this on a model with 50 gigabytes. Okay. Other thing that is very useful on DAX Studio, especially when you connect to your premium capacity using the XMLA, you can also look up and see the partitions. In this case, it's a Power BI desktop file, only one partition, but you can just watch all the partitions that, especially on incremental refresh, the partitions that Power BI creates for you. So the Vertipack Analyzer metric is insanely useful. And of course, you can always export this as not this export, is the export metrics, and this way it will export a file with an extension called vpacks that you can send to a team. You can send to Microsoft support, for example, and give them a statistic, all these statistics for offline analysis. And you can even use another tool created by SQL BI. Is an Excel file that can read these vpacks and have this in a more tabular experience for deep dive analysis. But in this case, if you just want to sneak peek your model, view metrics is the way to go. And let me now show you one of my typical use cases. One of the things that I do a lot of times in the DAX, in the CAT team, is companies and get into performance problems. Something like this, something very similar like this. So I already pre-opened and warmed this up to don't spend a lot of time on this, but you can see that I have a matrix in here, and this matrix, this report is taking like 84 seconds rendering, and the customer is saying, okay, can you help me? And one thing that you can do is you can come here and you can click on the table, you can remove some of the measures to pinpoint until you get to the measure that is causing the performance, or you can go crazy and try to look into all the measures. But believe me, in the real world, you will see a situation like this with 50 measures. And now the problem is, how do you know which measure is causing the problem? Because normally 1 or 2 or 3 measures are the culprit for the 90% of that time. And you can use DAX Studio to very, very quickly pinpoint that. And the way is you just go, you enable Performance Analyzer, you identify the visual that is taking more time, you copy the query, you can click here, you go to DAX Studio, and I already warmed this up as well. So this is DAX Studio connected to that Power BI dataset. You connected to DAX Studio to that. The first thing you should do is you need to go to the ribbon on DAX Studio, enable this this setting over here, server timings, and also this is really important. You need to, on the run, you have this icon over here. You click here and you say, okay, every time I'm going to run this query, I want to clear the cache, because Power BI dataset is an analysis services data model behind the scene, and it has cache. So if you don't clear the cache, it will basically, so it can run really slow on the first execution and then really fast on the second execution. And you can see that without the cache, I'm getting 1 minute and 10, and in Power BI desktop, I was getting 84 seconds. And the thing is, okay, you copy the query. So this is a typical matrix visual query. And the first thing that you should do, and I call this technique, actually, I think Phil Seamark, I think no, there is a link on the slides to a Phil Seamark session where he showed this technique with a much more detailed content, but I will just keep it simple. So the first thing that you should do, so I have those four measures. This ignore, it's because of the calculation groups, is I call this the divide and conquer. So the technique is really simple. So we come here and I have 4 measures. So let's comment all of them. And I need to remove this comma, and let's run it again. And now you can see that 1 minute query went down to 370 milliseconds. And what I know about this is that the problem is not on these measures. The problem is in one of these measures. So let's do the other way around. Okay, this is not my problem. Let's uncomment these ones. And let's try it. And of course, I won't spend that 1 minute time. Let's stop it, but it would took 1 minute. Okay, I have 2 measures. Now let's do it again. So let's see if this is if it's the first one or the second one. Remove the comma here, run it, and 33 milliseconds. So it's not this one. So I know I just pinpointed, I just identified the measure that is causing my problem. And now I could go back to Power BI Desktop, identify the measure, and see the DAX and try to fix it. But that's not efficient because, especially on a large data model, Power BI Desktop will also get slow. But you can do everything in DAX Studio and debug it and test it and do the change and see if you get the better results. And then you go back to DAX Studio with the actual fix. So, and to do that, you identify the measure. So the measure we're talking about is percentage sales amount last year. You identify the basic measure. You also get the search over here. And you can, and this is also one of my favorite features about DAX Studio, you can just define the measure. And when you do that, this will create in the top the measure definition. And of course, just for the sake of time, I quickly identify, okay, I have a problem. I'm using the same measure multiple times. I could just put some variables. Okay, let's put the variables. Now let's try it again. And I won't stick to the end, but it's still bad, okay? It's still bad. Okay, it's not this measure. Now, because I forgot to mention that when you define a measure, this will override the measure from the model. So this is very efficient because you can change directly in DAX Studio. You can test, you have the baseline, you get the results again without leaving DAX Studio. So the define measure allows you to change the measure that in this execution context, this will override the measure, the definition that comes from the actual data set. Now, okay, it's not that one, but we have another measure here. So sales amount last year, let's see, sales amount last year, here it is. We do another defined measure, okay? And it works like that. You can define multiple measures and they will all override each other. And I know, okay, this is the problem. I'm doing the last date without applying the all on the sales table. I won't go into details why this is the problem, but I fixed the problem. And now the thing that I want to show you is, okay, I test again the query. Now the query, I just optimized that 1 minute and 10-second query to 188 milliseconds. I reduced a lot of the storage engine and the formula engine queries. So this is the solution that I need to apply. Of course, this could be a false positive. So let's put all the measures together again. I need to put some commas in here that I removed, run it again, and I will get, so I just fixed my performance issue. Another thing that in DAX Studio you can also do is this run benchmark. This is very useful. If you have a query and you want to get some baselines, you can just click on the run benchmark and you can say, okay, I want to do 2 cold cache executions, 2 warm cache executions, run, and this will run all those queries like multiple times. And in the end, it will give you a statistics report. See, okay, it will give you a report like this that you can have as a baseline, take a screenshot and do the optimization and really see the results that you get from that optimization. Of course, in the end, you need to go to Power BI Desktop. So in the end, you just copy the measure definition that you optimized. You go to Power BI Desktop, and in Power BI Desktop, you do the actual optimization, you do the actual change of that measure in the code. So it sales amount last year. This is the big problem was here. It was not because of the variables, although you should use the variables. And now my Power BI report is fast. Now, the thing here is DAX Studio can really make you way more. Without DAX Studio, believe me, in a real world, getting to the measure that is causing the problem could be like a day or more of work. Okay, so please don't do it. Don't do it like that. You need to be a little bit more smarter in your Power BI development, and a way to be smarter is using these kind of tools and identify exactly what is causing your problem, getting the baselines, optimizing it in a fast way, and then correct it in the model. Okay, so DAX Studio must-have tool. The second tool that I want to showcase is Tabular Editor. So Tabular Editor is a must-have for developing. So DAX Studio is more, it's a tool for querying. Tabular Editor is actually for creation. You can create everything in Tabular Editor, all the entire desktop. You cannot create the reports, but you can create measures, you can create the tables, you can create the partitions, you can create everything in Tabular Editor. In a more, let's say, enterprise level development, you might even just use Tabular Editor, not even use the Power BI desktop. Or maybe you start with Power BI desktop, you draw your diagrams, you create the relationships, and then you will go to Tabular Editor. So it can really make you more efficient, and it's a lot more faster on the development experience, because you don't have the reports, you don't have the model. It's basically just editing a JSON file. One of my favorite use cases on Tabular Editor, and especially this is only available for people with premium capacities, is the deployment. Because please don't do this. So if you have a Power BI file, let's say with 500 megabyte file, every time you want to just deploy a measure, or every time you want to just deploy even a new table, you can, of course, upload a file and wait a couple of minutes, depending on our network, for that upload to happen. You have a much more efficient way of doing it. If you have premium, what you can do is you can come here, you can open Tabular Editor. So it's a tool you install, it will be in here. You can just open Tabular. You can still keep working in Power BI desktop, but you open Tabular Editor when you just want to deploy. Let's say I want to deploy a new measure. For example, you can, let me just show you, you can create a measure in here. So let's for example duplicate this measure, sales amount, red, and in here let's just multiply this by 2. You can see that in terms of the development, it's faster. So you can do things like copy paste. You can copy paste between multiple Power BI desktop files, which is also really useful. You save it, and when you save it, because this is connected to the Power BI desktop behind the scenes, this will also revert. So every change that you make in here will show up in the Power BI desktop. Actually, I'm not sure why it's not working, but there should be some problem in here. I'm not sure why. But normally this will just refresh and show back in the Power BI desktop file. Maybe it's because I have too many of those opened. But one thing, let's go back to the deployment, is okay, I have this development, I want to deploy this to my workspace. So you go to your workspace, and in here you go to settings, premium, and if you have premium, you will have this XMLA connection. You just copy this, you go back to Power BI desktop, to Tabular Editor, and you have on the menu, you have this model deploy. You click model deploy. You give it, you paste here the server. On the server property, you paste the XMLA connection. Click next. You need to authenticate with your Power BI account. Okay. And let me just approve my multi-factor authentication. Next. And now you can choose if you want to deploy to a new database, or if you just want to override an existing database. Let's just override an existing database. Next. And in here, by default, it will only tell you to deploy the model structure. It won't deploy the partition, so it won't deploy the data, but it will deploy those new measures. So let's click next, deploy, and this will deploy in a instant. I don't know. Okay, that is an error, but I don't know if this is from the version that I have, but this works, okay. But when you deploy, this will run like instantaneous, so you don't need to wait for that upload to happen, and that the new measures will show up in Power BI, in Power BI Online, and they will be available for your end users. So deployment is a very good use case of Tabular Editor. Another thing, although it's a little bit more or much more advanced, is this advanced scripting. You can write some scripts on Tabular Editor to automate things like creating the year-to-date and last year measures for the base measures that you created, so you don't need to go manually and create those. One of my favorite ones is this one, and this is also a best practice, by the way. It's the measures descriptions. So one thing that you should do, although we as developers we forget this a lot of times, is to have so when you create a measure, you can put some descriptions on that measure that will explain the calculation behind the scenes. So when end users, when they are analyzing especially for self-service purposes, when they are viewing the model, it will show the description. For example, it might show here, this is the average of unit price per day or per month. Or for example, on the last year, it might show, okay, this is the last year considering the last date of sales, not the end of the month. So you can put some more context. And of course, you can do it in Power BI Desktop. So for that, you need to go to the diagram view. And in Power BI Desktop, you select the measure, you have the description here, you can update. And now imagine doing that for hundreds of measures. It might be a lot more time consuming. What you can do is you can have a CSV file or an Excel file with all the measures descriptions. You can even ask for your business stakeholder for the project to write these descriptions for you, because with their own words, because that description will be visible to the end users, not to the developers. So this is important to have the business terms. So you create this CSV file, then you go to Tabular Editor, and yes, there will be some code, and maybe, and this is actually, I got this from the community. So I have this script over here. Let me just copy and paste it to Tabular Editor. We put it here. So what the script is doing is basically is going to the measure, to the CSV file, and it's getting so the CSV file has, the first column is the table, the second column is the measure, the third column is the measure description, and it will find those measures in my model, and it will update the descriptions. And just like that, boom, all my measures are updated with this description. I can even run this connecting to the data set online and not the data set in the desktop. Of course, when you deploy, you will need to run it again. But the scripting can make you also very efficient in developing your model. And this is a best practice. Okay. I understand that, and it's easy to start doing this from the beginning than to do this in the end when you have a lot of models and a lot of data sets and a lot of measures. But believe me, this will pay off in the end if you do it. Especially your end users will thank you. And last, the best practice analyzer, and this is very insanely useful if you have a team. So if you are working in a team and in a Power BI development team, you have junior people, you have senior people, you have like ninjas, okay? And those the most senior people, when they are working with the junior people, with the junior developers, of course the junior developer won't know everything about the best practices that you want to apply in your team. And this is important. The best practices that you want to apply in your team. So for that, you can create something that is called the JSON file with a collection of rules. So the best practice rules. This is also very well documented. but the BPA rules, it's a JSON. Let me just show it. Actually, my colleague on the CAT team has a GitHub repo, is this Michael Kowalski, where the JSON is something like this, where you can just put a collection of rules like, okay, don't use floating points. If there is a column that is not used anywhere, it's not used on a relationship, it's not used on a measure, it will pinpoint that column and ask for someone to remove. So the best practice analyzer will allow you, for you in a team, to say to junior developers, hey, before talking to me or before talking to with the senior guys, run best practice analyzer on the data set you just created, and look at the suggestions it's going to give you. The ones that you can fix it, or that you can even put some links on every rule. If there is if you can fix it, fix it. If you cannot fix it, okay, let it be, and then we will talk. And I've been in consulting for 15 years. I had a team, and this was like saving a lot of hours from the senior guys just explaining, hey, use the divide function. And why you need to use the divide function? Because you can put some descriptions in here with some reference links that the junior developer can learn. So Tabular Editor and best practice analyzer on a team is like the ultimate thing on going on steroids on development. Okay, I've seen this happen, and I see this happen all the time. So best practice analyzer, it's really, really worth your time if you work on a team. Okay, I don't want to overspend too much time on the tools, because they also have some other things that I want to show. The last tool that I'm not going to demo, but this is also really useful, is the ALM toolkit. So this is especially useful if you are working in a team and you want to have two developers working on the same file. So as you know, Power BI Desktop and Power BI doesn't have the best story there, especially if you don't use the BIM files, if you don't use Tabular Editor and you are still using Power BI Desktop, you don't have a way to do source control. But this can make your life a little bit easier, and you can have two developers working in the same PBIX files they deploy to the workspace, and then you can use the ALM toolkit to compare your local file with a published file and merge the difference. So it's like a file diff, but for Power BI data models. Reza, just like taking like, is there any questions so far? Okay.
Most of the questions, I think, was more like a discussion. I don't think so. There is a question, last question from Ijaz, that does an import measure from a CSV file script already exists. Ijaz, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Import measure, can you repeat?
The question is that does an import measure from a CSV file script exist already? Not sure.
Not sure, although there is a GitHub repo. I think it's in here. There is a public GitHub repo where there are a lot of scripts that you can look into what exists. But that's, for example, it's perfectly possible to do. It's not, and it shouldn't be difficult. Okay. But this on the slides, there is a link to a repo from Tabular Editor where you have a lot of these scripts available for you. And you can learn from them and create your own.
Okay, thank you. No other question? Oh, yeah, there is one just... Yep, go on.
How much time do I have? How much time do I have?
We still have like about, let's say, 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay, if there is, we can leave the questions to the end, but go ahead.
One more question from Muhammad is, I think so far these tools are not certified by Microsoft because of this. Some of clients not willing to install it.
They are not Microsoft tools. They are not Microsoft tools. They are open source tools, but so they are not certified by Microsoft. But there is even a blog post. I think it was from SQL BI. Yeah, there is a blog post where we say that okay, we endorse these open source tools, especially Tabular Editor, because there are things that you cannot even create in Power BI desktop. For example, calculation groups. Of course, there will be a point in time where this will be included in the product, but in terms of the certification, no, they are not Microsoft tools.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Yeah, please go on.
Okay. Let's talk a bit now. Not about tools, but some development techniques. And let's start with one thing that is sometimes people forget about it, and this can be like insanely useful. So everything that so my tenant, my Power BI tenant that I just opened is one example of that. This is free, and you can, for example, create your own Power BI playground. And why would you want to create your own Power BI playground? To be an admin. Okay, to try admin things, to try the tenant settings, to enable things, to publish a Power BI data set and try scenarios of, for example, the role level security with users, or try to publish an app and see how your end user will see that app. And if you don't have the proper permissions on your tenant, if you are not a Power BI admin, if you cannot create users, if you cannot create even workspaces, if you want to test something, you will be blocked. And with this, you are not blocked. You can create your own tenant. You will get 25 licenses of E5 for free. So this is Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate. You get full control. You get a tenant for 90 days, and this will renew automatically, but this is not for production, guys. Okay, so you cannot use this for your own company or to have like to have an email. They will block you. But if you use it for development or development purposes, like a playground, so if this is used for you to do your developments, it's perfectly valid. So there is a link in here. This is very easy. Just you go there, you create a developer subscription, you name it. For example, I have this Rui Romano 365 playground on Microsoft. You get the 25 licenses and one more time, full tenant control. And this can be really, really useful. Okay. And if your company, if you have an MSDN subscription, so you also get an Azure subscription with some monthly credits, you can even bind the two. So you can apply your Azure subscription to the same tenant, and then you not only get the Power BI playground, but you get the Power BI playground and an Azure playground that you can do your development stuff, where you are the god of the of the whole thing. You can do whatever you want. Even in Microsoft, okay, we of course get licenses, Power BI licenses, Azure subscriptions, but I'm not an admin, and I need to be an admin because sometimes I'm working with a customer and I want to try something. I want to try the data flows, permissions with security groups, and for that I need to create a security group, and I cannot create a security group in Microsoft Azure Active Directory, but I can create in my own. Okay, so as a developer, if you are serious into your Power BI developments, this is something that I would encourage you to consider. Okay, it's really easy. You just need to follow the link. So this will take you to a documentation page, and it will walk you through how to create this subscription, how to use it. One more time, development. Okay, don't think this as, oh, I get 25 licenses. Oh, that's fine. I will save some money. No, they will block you. Okay, there is even a video from my colleague, Adam Saxon, in the Guy in the Cube that also shows how to create this. Okay. So very, very useful. Keeping it simple, one of my favorite things, also very, very useful on a team. If you are on a team, if you are on a company, you need to have your own templates. Okay, don't start every Power BI development from scratch. And this can also make your team way more productive. It's a fast track to new developments. You can have your theme, your company theme. You can have some common tables, built-in common tables, like the calendar and the time. You can have some pre-built calculation groups, the about page. And whenever you start that new development, you won't start from scratch. So you already have a theme, so you just need to bring the new data, drag and drop, and you can build a beautiful report with a low effort. If you are like me, you don't have a lot of designer skills, so you can make something look professional with a low effort. And the theme, so the themes is not just colors, okay? Themes is, you can just, if side by side with the template, if you also have the JSON file for the theme, you can change a lot of the configurations of the visuals. But let's keep it simple. I will show just changing the color. So if I go to the theme, for example, I'm working with a customer as a consultant that is not blue. I want to change to red. You can just customize here and change the color to red, and you will see that everything will change. So the primary color just changed. And this Power BI template, by the way, I have a sample of a Power BI template. This Power BI template I'm showing in my GitHub. This is the link. So if you open the GitHub page, you'll see there will be in here the template file. And this template file is a little bit special because all the data, so you can even refresh it because all the data is in the model. It's like static in the model. So you get a star schema, so a sample file with a star schema with a fair amount of data. So 300,000 rows, 3,000 rows. So it's not that big, but it's also not that small. But you get like this star schema that you can try stuff as well. And the way the technique I used is also nice. I just want to quickly share. So if I open Power Query, so what I did is I have some raw queries over here with static files, with basically using some static base64 serialization. So I have all the rows in here. Of course, when you start from the template, what will happen is you will remove these tables, and of course things will be broken, but the layout will be there. So let's imagine that now the store table is the new table I just brought in. Now I can just select and drag and drop, and the style will be there. The configuration will be there. Okay, the calendar table will be there. So this can really be a fast track. And in a team, if you are working in a Power BI development team, if you have your center of excellence in your company, have your own templates. And every time you start a new development, just say to the developer, start with this. Okay, don't start from scratch. Don't go and create your own thing. Start from this, and then you will have much more coherence inside the team, and you will save time. Believe me. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about calculation groups. And calculation groups are very known for things like time intelligence, time aggregations, variation. So you create things like a calculation group that will calculate the year-to-date and the last year without creating a measure for each one. But calculation groups is way more powerful than that. Okay, calculation groups allows you to actually change the measure, any measure in the report in a dynamic way. So I'll show you two of my favorite examples of calculation groups that I like a lot. So I call it the smart calcs calculation groups, and the idea is I have a card over here. It's a regular card, so this is using the normal card. And one of the best practices in data visualization is never show a number like this or alone like this. Of course, you can show a number and then a visual that will show the trend, because 16 millions can be very good and can also be very bad. So you need to show this comparing with something. And if you want to do it, of course, that you can use a custom visual. There is also this KPI visual that can give you kind of the same experience. But if you want to just have this as a simple card without having a custom visual, or without having multiple visuals to get to the same context, and you don't want to create a measure every time you want to do this, you can create a calculation group. I call it the smart calc. And the smart calc is just, what you need to do is you have your card, you put a regular measure, so sales amount. Let's just put another one just to be different. For example, sales amount last year. And now what I want to know, what I want to show is, okay, show me this value with comparison. Actually, this is not the best example. Let's put sales amount again. Show me this value in comparison with the last year. But and for that, you go to the calculation group, smart calcs. You drag the smart calcs to the filter visual. So you need to do this only on this visual, and then I have the label last year's smart calc. And if you click here, what this calculation group will do is it will take the selected measure. It will calculate that selected measure in the same period last year, and it will do the delta, and it will show me the percentage. Yes, it's not the most beautiful thing. Of course, that if you put a custom visual in here, it will have more options, but this will be fast. That's the first thing. It will be fast to develop and also fast in performance, because this will be a single query. The calculation group will change the actual measure executed for this visual on the fly, and it's available on any card. So if I start from scratch and I put the card in here and I select, let's say, the average daily sales, completely another measure, drag the smart calc, label last year, it's done. So I don't need to do anything else. Okay, this is very efficient, and you can apply that best practice that I usually agree, or I highly recommend in any measure, in any card. Let me just show you how I did this. So you need to go to Tabular Editor, and on Tabular Editor, you need to create a calculation group. It's already here, smart calcs, and you'll see that this is also not very complex. So this is the expression for the calculation group. So it's taking the selected measure. So any measure that I put there is calculating that selected measure in the same period last year, is doing the delta, and then it's just returning with a format string of the measure. It's just returning the value as a text. Of course, that will be a text. You cannot use it on the chart, on a line chart per se, but you can use it on a table or on a card, and it's just returning that, concatenating with a delta. So this can be very efficient. You can even, for example, in that template that you have, you can pre-build those smart calcs in your Power BI template. Okay. Now, but there are other things that you can do. Another one that I really like is you have your production dashboard, and you are showing this to a consultant, or you are showing this to an external person, and you don't want to show the actual value. So you can have a smart calc that is randomized, that will just apply random multiplication over every value. And notice this. This is a smart calc being applied on the page. So you can see the power of calculation groups just here. So this is going to every single measure on this page and changing the value. Okay, and the calculation for that. So randomize, actually just apply a random, okay, to the selected measure. If there is any error, just return the selected measure. And you can also do other stuff a little bit more advanced. For example, if you want to apply a normalization. So one thing, if you have a line chart like this, where the scale and the y-axis is very different between the measures, and you want to do a normalization to see when one grows if the other grows, you can do the same thing with also the smart calc. So you apply, if you don't apply the normalization, it will show the values as is. If you apply the normalization, it will just normalize between 0 and 1. This one is a little bit more complex, but it's also very useful, and you don't need to create a normalization measure for each one. I don't know why I cannot open Tableau Editor right now. Okay. Okay. I cannot open Tableau Editor. I don't know what's happened. But calculation groups, much more than just time variations, and you can be can do some smart stuff with them. For example, Phil Seamark has a blog post on how to warm up. So you have a calculation group that will don't do anything, and it's like an apply all button. So when you apply the calculation group, then it will execute the measures. So it's useful when on direct query, for example, direct query developments. Okay, let me just check time. I think I'm running out of time, but I'm also getting to the end. Another thing that you need to know when you are working with Power BI is the REST API. Okay, there is a REST API, and that REST API can make you very, very efficient. Okay, you can use the REST API for management purposes, like creating workspaces automatically, like rebinding reports to data sets, like DevOps. So let me show you. This is on my GitHub. I call this the Power BI DevOps. And just one disclaimer: if you have premium, if you are comfortable with Tabular Editor development, if you have Azure DevOps and really you wanna go enterprise level, consider there is a session from Daniel of how to use Azure DevOps and Tabular Editor and deployment pipelines to automate the whole thing. But if you don't have premium, or if your team is not very comfortable with this, you also have the deployment pipelines, of course, from Microsoft. But let me show you another approach that can also be very useful. So the idea of this Power BI DevOps is to do this. So since everything is on my Git repo, one more time, but the idea is this. Let me put this here. So you have a project. So one version of your development. So you have the data sets, it's a PBIX, you have the reports, PBIX live connected to the development data set. And then the idea is you have a JSON file that will declare your environment. So it will declare things like, okay, these are my workspaces that I want. For each workspace, these are the permissions that I want. So it's empty, but I could add here security groups or users. And then I have, this is my data set. And when I deploy on this environment, so you have a JSON file for each environment. So on production, when I deploy, I want to target the production database. If I look into the development, it's targeting the development database, but it's the same PBIX file. I don't have a development PBIX, a production PBIX. And also the reports. And for each report, I'm saying, okay, I want the reports to be published to the marketing workspace, and I want it to be binded to the data set on this environment, on the production environment. So you have this JSON file. And in the end, let's go crazy. Let's create something new from scratch. Let's Reza, so I don't have this workspace. Pivot. And now, I just need to run this script, the deployment PS1. This is using a PowerShell module that is on GitHub. It will connect to the REST API, and it will publish the workspaces. It will publish the data set, and it will publish the report. So if I run the script, it should ask me to authenticate. Yes, it's done. This will create that new environment from scratch, because I don't have those workspaces. It will create the workspaces, it will assign the permissions, and it will deploy the PBIX files. It will make sure that the parameters on those PBIX files are the correct ones. It will deploy the reports, and it will bind the reports to the proper data set. So in the end, what I get is, this can also be useful on tenant migrations. For example, you can download everything, prepare a collection of folders, and then run it. So I should have some Reza workspaces in my tenant. Here they are with the reports. And if I see the lineage on these reports, this will be connected to the Reza demo datasets, okay, to the new workspace. Now, why this can make your development way more easier? It can, because this won't ever be wrong. So you are a human, and sometimes you will deploy and you will forget to rewind, and you will deploy the production to development or development to production. And like this, you can declare how you want things to be done, and then you just need to run it. And if it runs okay today, it will run okay tomorrow. Okay, this can and you don't want to be in a situation where you have like those multiple PBIX files hanging over and making sure that, so you should just have one version of the development. So this can be really useful. Of course, there are some alternatives. I know that somewhere in the future this won't be needed. Deployment pipelines will be able to support all this. But for now, this can also help you making you a little bit more efficient on the deployment strategies and automate how do you want things to be deployed. Reza, I think I ran out of time, right?
No, it's still good. If you want to show something else, that would be still.
Yeah, let me just final one, okay?
Yep.
This is my favorite API. So there is an API called the execute queries. For me, this is the coolest API. My brain was like jumping when this got out last year with ideas, okay, things that you can do with this, because it's like you can do a lot of stuff with this. So there is a REST API called execute queries. So the REST API is just do a post to the data set with execute queries, and on the body you just pass a DAX query. That's why I said DAX Studio, the query builder, can be useful. So you can can execute a query, and in the end you will receive a JSON result with that query. And why this is huge? Because this, for example, you can do data integration. It's limited because there are limitations in here. If you think that you can just call this API to export millions of rows and load it on a data lake, forget it. It won't work. But think as another thing like, okay, you have your Power BI data set with a lot of measures, a lot of logic there. and you want to just snapshot your data to a data lake and aggregated level, like I want to snapshot these measures per month, and I want to store it because if the data changes later, I want to have a comparison. So for that, it's if we are not talking about millions and millions of rows, if you want to, because Power BI is really fast on that. It's not a database for you to go and extract data, but if it is a database to do a query, an aggregated level that will be some hundreds or 10,000 rows, and return that like instantly, because it's Power BI is really good at aggregations and time intelligence and doing those calculations on the fly. So data integration is one of the scenarios. Another scenario, there is a very good blog post from the community by James Brun. What about testing? So you can use some frameworks like Cucumber or SpecFlow that can call REST APIs, and you can have something like, okay, I will use these frameworks that can call a REST API to connect to my model, execute a measure, and make and compare that measure with a value that I know that measure should have. And even if it's not a static value, you can do things like, okay, I know that this store shouldn't sell more than 1,000 euros per day. So if there is a day where it has more than $1,000, it might be a data quality issue. So we can use this REST API to integrate with existing data testing tools or unit testing tools to call that REST API and get the results and compare it. And one of my favorites is you can also build like an alerting system using Power BI data. Let me show you one example. Okay, we go to my playground tenant. Let's go to Power Automate, so no code in here. And I have a flow, Power Automate flow. So one more time, no code. And this flow is running, or this Power Automate is running every day at 9 a.m. It has a variable that has the DAX query. So this should be for the current, this should be for the current date. I'm just statically putting a date in here just because I don't have this data model with new data every day. So it will execute this DAX query, and the DAX query is really simple. It's going to find employees where the current day or the previous day sales amount is less than the last year sales for the same day. So I just want to know, like, let's say, underperforming employees. Have a variable for the dataset ID, and I have I use the HTTP connector on Power Automate, and I'm connecting to that dataset. I'm using the execute queries, passing the query, and in the end, I will just send an email to the managers with an HTML table of that result. So let me show you. I'll run manually. Let's run it. If I go to my email, I should be getting an email. Here it is. With on the body of the email, the employees that are underperforming. This is getting this data from my Power BI data model, and I even attached the CSV file with the data. And this is just using the REST API. This is not XMLA endpoint. This is not C#. This is using that REST API that is available for you. And this is the cherry on top of the cake. This works on Premium, and it also works on Pro. Okay, you can even that data quality testings, you can build it on Pro. So of course, you need to have a service principal or a user that needs to have the build permissions. It needs to also be allowed to use XMLA endpoints. There are some limitations, some documented limitations, but look, this is is, as Patrick says, this is banana. So you can do a lot of stuff with this. You can really be really smart in how you use it. And this can also take your development on steroids. For example, on that data quality thing, it is something that you can easily build up some data quality frameworks over your Power BI data sets and make sure that your end users are always seeing the right data. So I'm sorry to get out a little bit of time. As I told you, I always change this presentation, so and I don't have like a lot of time to rehearse the timings, but I think that at least you learned something new today, and it was worth it. It was a pleasure to be here with you, and hope to see you next time soon. Thank you.
Awesome presentation, Rui. Thank you. Fantastic. A lot of great things to work with. I'm sure a lot of people had enjoyed it as well. Lots of interesting comments. So everyone, if you have any questions, just feel free to turn on your microphone, or if multiple people have questions, just raise your hand.
I just saw a question on REST APIs. I will do a Power BI Summit session just all about REST API. So register for that. You can see it.
Yep, that is coming in March, 7th of March. So stay tuned for that. It's a full session on REST API. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Hello, good, thank you. Great presentation, Roy. I've been working on your PBI monitor report for the last week at work, making it even more easy for users to understand what's going on. But I cannot wait until Microsoft, I was going to say you, but really it's Microsoft, let us bring in file sizes as part of that API. That'll be awesome.
I saw your tweet, and you did the right thing creating that idea. What I can tell you is
it's got 2 votes.
Yeah, it is something that the PG is aware of. There are some, of course, challenges to do it at scale, but you know Power BI, it's really community driven, and if it is really something that it's worthwhile and a lot of people is asking, they will do it.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is it's just a data dictionary on some of those terms, like some of those operations. They're really mysterious, and I know there's a lot of people using that API in the community. And when I voiced that question of, geez, what do some of these things mean? They're not that intuitive. A lot of people went, yep, we don't know. So that would be cool. But otherwise, it's awesome.
Thank you.
There was a question. I mean, Mohammed's question reminded me of that question as well. There was an earlier question also about that Office 365 developer license you talked about. That question was that what defines a dev usage of that, like how, and this question is that does it include Power BI Premium too?
What defines a dev? So everything that is not deploying to end users. So everything that is not being used for production purposes, because you get 25 licenses, E5 licenses. An E5 license costs like $50 per month or 40, I'm not sure. So the idea of the development subscription is to give you as a developer the empowerment to create stuff without paying anything. So everything that is not something that you will deploy to end users and you will use it for business, it's considered the development purposes. I used this before Microsoft and I never got any issues, but I use this for the community presentations. I use this for whenever I want to test a new development with a customer scenario. And what will happen is the subscription has a limit of 90 days. So at the end of the 90 days, you will receive an email just saying, hey, your subscription was renewed or not. I'm pretty sure they monitor things like if you have actual users connecting from different places, and every day and every hour checking the email, they will block you for sure. About premium, you don't get premium, but you can do trials in premium per user. So you can create, because you are an admin, you actually have an Active Directory. You can just go there and create a new user and do a trial for premium per user. And when the trial expires, you create a new user and then do another trial. But one more time, development purposes. Okay, don't think that you will be like smart and create this to save money, because it won't work. Believe me, they monitor this. But this is awesome. Okay, I think this is amazing that you get this playground for free and you can just play with it without worrying about paying the licenses, because sometimes people get blocked from that. And I can tell you, even on Microsoft, I don't have the full authority to just go there and create users and mess with the admin settings. And in my playground, I can do whatever I want. I can enable admin tenant settings. I can do the monitoring stuff. I can go crazy at it without worrying about doing anything bad.
Great, thank you, Rui. And Kevin is also asking, following that, this week, so we can use this for proof of concept scenarios.
I would say yes. Although we can start getting in a gray area. But take a look at the links. I'm not sure if these slides are already on my GitHub. I will just put it now or after the session. But take a look at the link that is on the slide. There is a fact there that describes the allowed scenarios. But they will always allow you to create. So they won't know what you will be doing with it. At least you get 90 days, and that 90 days, yes, you can do it for the POC. But you might get in a situation where it didn't renew. But my understanding of what 365 team does is, if they detect actual daily usage of the tenant, like massive daily usage that is similar to a production environment, they will block you. So I would say yes, but it can be a gray area.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If you have questions, feel free to turn on your microphone.
Because the POC, if the thing is creating a POC for a customer, the right way is creating a trial. You create a trial for the customer, you do the POC on that trial, and in the end, the customer can convert that trial to a paid subscription. This is a developer subscription. You cannot, I don't think you can easily convert that to a paid subscription.
Yeah, sure. Mohammed is asking, would this session be available on YouTube later? Definitely. Is it possible to get links to the slide? I'll get the link from Rui and put that in the meetup page as well.
Yeah. And the slides, I'm just posting them right now.
So looks like no more questions. Again, fantastic presentation. Everyone enjoyed it. It takes some time for everyone to consume that information. Like a good weekend thinking, long weekend for those in Auckland. That's pretty much it. Thank you, Rui, for
always think on the possibilities.
Really appreciate that.
Can I ask one thing? Yep. Everybody unmute their mic. Everybody unmute their mic. Don't be shy. Thank you. Unmute your mic. And give a big round of applause. Yay!
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Great job.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I miss that. I miss that on stage. It's really missing.
I agree. That's
the
Kiwi style way of doing things.
Yes. Yeah.
You would have gotten a standing ovation for the REST API bit of your presentation, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and in SQL Bits, I'm sure you get a lot of in-person attendees.
Yeah, believe me, I'm really missing that, missing the being on those big conferences. One of my favorites was actually in New Zealand.
Yes, definitely.
Power BI Summit was definitely. It was awesome.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully we'll have you back.
Hopefully next year.
Yeah, when things are back to normal.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
The new normal, Reza. The new normal.
New normal. Yeah, the new normal. Okay, great, everyone. It was great to see you all. See you again next month. And Rui, have a great time in SQL Bits. See you in Power BI Summit as well.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you at the summit.
Thank you. All right.
Yes.
Rui, awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.